Well, I think this ordinance, as it's stated right now, just goes way too far. And I think it is discriminatory. I have a real issue with women's breasts being banned and not men's chests. And to me, it's the eye of the beholder. And men may see that women's breasts are sexy. Well, women may think that men's chests are sexy. So, you know, I have a real problem with that. And I guess, you know, while I understand that breastfeeding is included in this ordinance, having nursed 3 children, these guys can get pretty wild sometimes. And so the question...
It's an exception.
I know it's an exception, but, you know, they sometimes expose your breasts when... And I guess I would like some detail on how long can that breast be exposed while the baby's nursing. So anyway, so I have some issues with the ordinance. I don't think it really addresses a problem. And I understand the desire to make the pranksters not be sexual offenders. But for me to entertain a proposal like this, it has to be non-discriminatory. And I personally don't know why we're even spending time on this when we have so many other important things in front of us. So I'm going to be supporting the motion.
Megan, I'm sorry, I forgot to offer you the opportunity to speak to your motion.
That's all right.
Well,
I understand the genesis of this ordinance that's coming through was because the city of Boulder has a concern about the Naked Pumpkin Run being the genesis of the mall crawl coming back with tens of thousands of people coming here. And it was an event that was fun and delightful for a long time in Boulder's history, for a number of years. And then there was a point at which the sheer number of people and the extent to which people were drunk made it kind of a frightening thing, and when there began to be a lot of destruction on the downtown mall. But the ordinance, and the police, as I understand it, felt the only option they had for the catalyst of the recurrence of this event was to charge with indecent exposure, the state ordinance, which required people, if they were convicted of it, to register as sex offenders. And that was clearly extreme and not what the authorities wanted. However, this ordinance is, you know, with ordinances we send a message. This is the wrong message. This is sending a message that we're marching back toward the 19th century rather than being in the 21st century and looking forward. This is not the kind of thing I think that our community wants. And we need to figure out, it's kind of fun that it's here because it's amusing. You know, there are games you can play with it, and people had fun at public participation. It brings a smile to people's faces. But this is really not the direction that we want to go in, and that's why I moved the consent agenda except for this one. I think we have to figure out a different way of dealing with the resurgence of the mall crawl, and this is not it.
Thank you, Megan. Susie, then Karen.
Since this is coming on first reading, I don't think we know, Megan, what the public wants. We have some people here in front of us tonight who have spoken about it, but they represent what proportion of our community? So I don't think we know, and we have not discussed this. We have not allowed a public participation or had a full hearing on it. I'm not sure how I will vote on it because I don't know exactly what it will look like. I have a number of questions of things I would ask for to have on second reading. So from my perspective, what you're proposing is premature. This may not be the answer to some of the issues that we have concerns about, but it may be in an amended form. And you're cutting it off with no other opportunities. So I would like to be able to at least go forward to a second hearing so that we can hear from the public, not just the folks who happen to show up tonight for public participation, who got to speak to it under that format on our council agenda.
The nudity ordinance is really an attempt to decriminalize some forms of nudity. I know people from CU who were arrested and charged with indecent exposure during the Naked Pumpkin Run. It was very traumatic for them. I think it would be much more appropriate for the police to have a much lesser offense to write a ticket on, something more like a traffic ticket. I think that's much more appropriate. And I agree that this is not the place to cut off discussion on this.
Macon?
I move the main motion as amended then with respect to item F by striking the words that make this sexist, in my opinion. The words on line 14, or areola of the female breast, and inserting the word or between penis and scrotum. So what it would do, the effect of it, if there's a second,
Second it.
the effect of it is that, at least if this is going to go forward, it treats men and women, the male and female breasts similarly. And that's why I moved to strike the language that makes it, I think, sexist if it moves forward.
So I'm actually going to support Macon's amendment, but I will also support the substitute motion of putting this up for second reading. I mean, I think we, unfortunately, probably need to discuss this. And it's not, you know, the question was what's changed. Well, I think what's changed is, at least what we hear from the police and from the district attorney as well, is that they feel somewhat hamstrung in how they can deal with certain things that go on and having to use a state ordinance that's inappropriate. Now, maybe there are other solutions to that. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this. But I think it's worthy of a discussion to see if there are other solutions to it. And the way we normally do that is we get something on the floor and then we bring it back for a second reading and, you know, have a public hearing.
Councilmember Adjutant?
Yes?
Applebaum?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Bowles?
No.
Turkian?
Yes.
Morzell?
No?
Osborne?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes?
Motion carries.
Thank you. Phew. So what we've just done is move the entire consent agenda forward to next week. Well, 2 items on the consent agenda forward to next week. That is the ordinance dealing with nudity, public nudity, and those changes, as well, and the change, as including the change made by Macon, seconded by Lisa, which would eliminate all reference to female breasts from the ordinance. So that will come for a public hearing in 2 weeks.